Hi there, Dead Idle Boy here, back with another video on the channel, and this time we've got a Daily Race C for you from this week's Daily Race C at Yamagiwa. It's in the Group 3 cars, and this track is, it's a love it or hate it track. It's a high speed track with some heavy braking zones, and it makes for some absolutely insane racing. You really can't take your eye off the road for any length of time, and it is carnage depending on where you start on the track. I had done the race a couple of times from the back on my American account just to get used to the track, just to see what the racing was like, but this was the first time I had jumped onto my main account in the EU. I had put in a pretty good qualifying time, getting close to the 130s. It was a really low 131 that I'd managed, which had put me up there into P3 to start off with, which was higher than I thought it would be starting, but it was good to get started at the front of the pack because you avoid a lot of the chaos and carnage that ensues, especially on the first run down to that particular chicane. So luckily we've managed to negotiate it pretty well. It's one of those chicanes that really unsettles the car, so if you don't commit to it and you don't have your line set before you go into it, you know, it is a recipe for disaster. But as you can see, we have been dropped a little bit by the front two. They'd set off at a really good pace. Again, this was my first race from the front, and I was a little bit off the pace to begin with, or felt it was anyway, but the cars behind weren't all over me, so maybe these two guys in front were just really quick. They'd set really quick qualifying times, so I suspect that is actually the case more than my pace being particularly slow. But as we come through here, I've completed the first lap, no real issues, maintained the gap behind, you know, relatively comfortably on this high speed track. But you can see up ahead, P2's got it all wrong and he's in the wall, and that is a disaster for him. Now that promotes us up to P2, so yeah, that was a little bit of a bonus, an unexpected bonus at that, to be fair. And you know, P1's already kind of gapped me from that point of view. P3, got a little bit of breathing space to them, so really we just wanted to sort of consolidate this lap now, just get another good solid lap in the bag. Again, it's always a little bit of a heart in your mouth moment as you come into this chicane. You've just got to get those wheels on the curbs if you can. I mean, you can afford to cut a lot of that chicane, but if you get it slightly wrong, this car can get really unsettled over it. So I like to try and keep at least two wheels on the curbs at all times as I go through that chicane, just to keep the car as sort of stable as possible, while maintaining obviously a good amount of speed. This is a really difficult right-left hander as well, which I kind of struggled with a lot. As you can see, I was never really sure whether I should be taking it, exiting it in 4th gear or keeping the power down in 3rd gear. It was 4th gear in qualifying, but in the race I tended to think it felt more like a sort of 3rd gear corner. But yeah, it's been a decent opening 2 laps. We've managed to, like I said, consolidate ourselves in the race and make sure we were kind of competing at least. As you can see though, P1 getting a little bit ahead. But if you just keep an eye on that delta, it's going to change slightly. As you can see, it's over 3 seconds, but it's coming down rapidly now, and all of a sudden there's P1. He's had an incident. It must have happened at the chicane, and as I said, it's very easy to get that wrong. So this is the kind of race, it could change at any given point. You can never relax, you never think you're out of sight, and we are going to just try and hang on as we get 2 wheels onto the grass, the same as the leader there. We managed to keep it pointing forward, although P3 is now right on our tail. So we've got a good chance here now to kind of probably break away as a group. But watch P1. Now, if you want to infuriate me in a race, do this going down a big long straight. There's absolutely no need, in my view, to weave like that. It's just, I can't really explain why that amount of weaving is required. Fair enough if you want to deviate from the racing line at least once, but to just weave all over the track like that, it's just, I don't understand what it's trying to gain. I mean, what's that gaining him? Half a tenth, if that, but even there, look at that. The most pointless weave there I've ever seen. If anything, it might unsettle him more than it's going to unsettle me, as he makes a last minute weave in and out to try and, you know, gain a millisecond of time through that fast left-hander. But fair enough, He's got the pace clearly, he's ahead of me. He's putting a little bit of breathing space, but again, managing to keep it nice and stable over the chicane. But look at P3, he's had a fantastic run through the chicane and he's going up the outside there. Make sure we give him space. So we're now involved in a little bit of a fight, which is good for P1, but we managed to park it on the apex nicely there and we hold P2, and that was quite important. But we're going to come down into this right-hander and things are going to start to change a little bit here as we get punted and off we go into the wall. Though we managed to keep it straight though, furiously steering the wheel, which is a lot more that can be said for the punter. And the Spaniard in P3, he manages to do a complete 360 and that absolutely costs him big time. So don't know if he just made a little bit of a mistake or whether or not he went for some hero move through there, but it certainly unsettled him more than it unsettled me. But to be honest with you, it kind of unsettled me to the point here where I'd kind of lost my concentration a little bit after that, and I just left a little bit of a gap. And fair play to the Spaniard there, he made a nice move up the inside and held it. We both gave each other a very nice amount of space there, and yeah, it was a good race round that corner. So we're back down to P3 where we started. And we're kind of in that fight now for P2 as P1 has benefited from the slight fight that the Spaniard gave us before basically committing racing suicide. So that's worked out well for P1. We're now going to focus on this battle ahead for P2, and you can see I got a great run into the chicane, better than the Spaniard in front, but that was part of the issue with this chicane. You can get a really good run through, but if the car in front of you doesn't, you've got nowhere to go. You can't deviate from the racing line or you'll die. So we just have to kind of get out the move, off the accelerator, and it does cost you time. It benefits the guy in front massively, and he kind of pulls away a little bit there. But as we come across here, we managed to get a better exit out of there. You can see he was on the grass a little bit. Now that sort of became a little bit of a theme for the Spaniard in P2. He wasn't the most comfortable, I noticed, through that corner. Now that's a little top tip. If you notice a driver who has a weakness on a corner, focus on that aspect of the corner. You try and nail it, you'll pick up a little bit of time as the race goes on. Now you'll see here we're jumping right forward into lap 11 because basically we've dropped P4, the Spaniard there, and we are now basically in it's a two-car race for P2. Now, don't know if it was a holiday in Spain at the time, but I felt like I was just battling with Spaniards for the full race here. There was a lot of them in this lobby, and a lot of them were super quick, obviously. But this guy here, he just wasn't comfortable going over that corner. Again, every lap I was kind of catching. He would gap me a little bit, but I would catch back up with him quite heavily every time we went through that last sector. So right on his tail now as we're going to go into the all-important last lap. Now, unless we have a massive error from P1, this is now the race for us to see if we can get that second place. Now, coming around this corner here, we're going to have to try and keep it tight. We could drift a little bit wide though, but we're going to get a good exit out of the corner. Now, that was the thing with this track as well. There's more than one line through the corners. You can take the wider line and go for a faster exit. You can kind of take the narrower line in, which will hold the line, but it all kind of balances itself out. You always kind of end up roughly the same distance coming out the corner. So as we come round here, we're managing to get on the power just early enough to put pressure on him coming down the hill. Now, you could go for the hero send down the hill, but we're way far too far back for that as we go into the chicane. We're hoping for a little error there, and he gets a little bit unsettled there. You can see we've closed the gap as we run up the hill. So we're now within sort of, dive bomb range. We don't want to do that, obviously, but that's the kind of range we're getting into. So this race is still really on as we get a good exit out of here. Now this is the moment we're going to be waiting for. Will he nail this corner? He hasn't really done it so far in the race. So we need to make sure we get it right. So we drop down to third. We're now going to exit out in third, and we catch up with him, but we just get our tyres onto the grass here, and it costs us a little bit. However, he just leaves a little gap in the inside, and we stick our nose in there. He gives us the space. Now we've got the exit. We're surely going to get past him and get the P2. But unfortunately, he's just got the drive. He managed to get on the power, fraction of a second ahead of us, and he brings it home in P2. It was a fantastic fight, but we managed to at least get one non-Spanish driver on the podium there. We'll go back now, we'll have a quick look here. You can see in the replay what happens to the Portuguese driver. He loses it there, and just when you think it's safe to rejoin, this will happen to you as he gets punted again. So that's him hit the wall 3 times there, and it's not looking good for him, is it? And you can see he's got an absolutely massive amount of damage on his car there. I mean, that car is pretty much, everything's broken on it apart from the back wheels. Now, here we go. This was the unfortunate punter. He couldn't really do anything about it, and he gets punted himself for the trouble. So he punts accidentally, gets punted, and gets a 5-second penalty just to completely ruin his race. Now, this was the other unfortunate punter, and he also gets punted, and he also picks up a 5-second penalty for his trouble. So pretty disastrous for those guys. This is the incident here where I get punted into the wall. The wall kinda comes to my rescue. Certainly doesn't come to his rescue, as he also gets hit from the back and performs a full 360, which effectively ended his challenge for the podium. So he also has the sort of ignominy of trying to put the power down and just spins out completely. So yeah, not the best for him there. So this was the move here then coming up that saw the overtake on lap 6, and this was a really nice overtake from the Spaniards. So I thought I would show that in the highlights as we both give each other. It is possible to give each other room in that corner. And once again, you can see here, if I just hadn't got my tyres on that grass, I might have had more grip, I don't know. But you can see here, we just stick our nose in there, and it's very, very respectful. Too wide, and you would think I was favourite there, but he just managed to get the power on earlier. He'd straightened his car up a fraction earlier than me, and he deserved that. Very, very nice run to the finish there. So all in all, a fantastic race. Really, really good, really enjoyable. Like I said, if you want to really annoy me in a race, just weave about like an absolute madman, and that'll do the job. But thanks for watching. If you haven't hit the like button, do that. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do that, because we might somehow get to 5,000 subscribers, and that would be yeah, it would just be a little bit of a dream for me. So yeah, if you want to help the channel, do all that good stuff. But until then, I shall see you on the next one. Goodbye.